So our next presentation will be by Tejaswini and Induja, and I will hand over to them.
Good afternoon, everybody. Well, how do I go next?
Yeah, go.
So to start with, what we are looking at is some guiding principles that is actually weaved into our proposal. So we looked at different documents which were provided. Also, of course, there are our own inspirations and our own ideas that are in place. So yeah, when we talk about vision, it's actually about content and character. So it's not the content and character only of the road on the crown, but also all those projects that would come up should carry content and character of the crown. Social connectivity this is something that we took it from Roger's sketch, which Marie had helped us translating 1990 sketches. One of them talks about for each zone, the crown should be a meeting and circulation place for the Aurovillians. And he further actually details out in that little sketch that the required spaces that crown should contain are for conviviality, which is restaurants and meeting rooms and multipurpose rooms, etc., for relaxations, for public services like distribution centers and laundries and post offices and all that. Under health, he talks about the health center, emergencies and all. The reception, he's talking about the guest houses and information hostels and all. The beauty, of course, and there he's talking about the spaces of performances and gardens and exhibition spaces. So we tried to take those when we are doing a placemaking along the crown. Water connectivity is one of the core that we are looking at, seeing how the water flows along the crown and try to connect them through different spaces. Movement, we are looking at as unifying passing space, and we all through our explorations, we have given a priority to pedestrians and mostly non-motorized vehicle traffics. Positive urban spaces, again, the spaces that we should create along the crown should be more coherent, more well-defined, and try and see how it can be porous and the spaces can flow in and out. Many of us have done that in our proposals, but we're kind of specifying that so that we see our explorations through that lens. Piecemeal growth is anyway there for Auroville, and we don't see that going, the kind of growth rate that we have, but if we could make piecemeal growth as a precondition to the larger whole, then we are playing safe, because then the larger wholes are there all through. Green-blue infrastructure is, so this is what we are primarily looking at. A ridge, we all know by now, a sheet flow and the gully flows. Canyon flows? Channelized flows. And so looking at these water flows, we are trying to propose some kind of an integrated urban water management by doing catchment along these. So we have taken, if you see all these larger things are actually the porous points which are already existing. So we are enlarging them, and these water bodies could become, the purpose could be reused or could be recharged. We could always have, where there is a denser area, right now whatever development is done here, the water bodies that could come along the water could be reused, while at other places the water could be recharged. So it's a mix of different things depending on how the development is proposed. We are looking at these water channels more as a width of 1 to 1.5 meters, maximum 2 meters. That again depends on I mean the water flow, but whatever we saw it is not exceeding by 2 meters. So you see the greens along these water channels that we have. These are the riparian buffers, and that is anything between 1 to 5 meters. Again, depending on the type of soil there, the riparian buffer could change. But the development could take that into account, and actually these spaces then can become soft landscaping elements along the crown. And again, I mean, here we tried to do a little effort where, of course, that has to come in our next explorations, that the water bodies, the way we design, could integrate the geometry of galaxy. These are just few pictures of dry creeks and wet creeks. And the way right now these water bodies, when they are full, how we are using right now. I mean, this is our social fabric, and it's interesting that we carry that social fabric forward.
Yeah. One thing to add about the water is we see, usually we see is what we see outside is integrated water management. But now it's an urban management, which is a very much of a not fully researched, and it's not a fully defined concept yet. All the cities are trying to experiment on their own, and try to see even the width of the channels and riparian buffers. Everything is still in most of a research area. And especially that's why it fits into Auroville very much, and this is a place where we could experiment it and show to the world this works for us, so why not you try it in your place. So that's a beautiful opportunity for us around water here. And coming to proposed movement, as she mentioned, our priority order of movement is non-motorized traffic on the crown, and then to accommodate also a light traffic, which is needed, and also heavy load traffic refers to the trucks that we should be using for the construction work, service related emergency and all that. And what we are saying is also, again, 5 to 7 years of immediate implementation is what we are looking at. In a way, mobility works for a little more longer, but the development and everything, so we are still focusing on 5 to 7 years is what surely. And then crown in relation, so crown, we are not seeing it in isolation. It's very hard to see. It has come across in all the presentations that we saw in the morning. So we are seeing definitely in relation with all the outside influences, internal needs and all that. And then significant existing ground realities like water and all those things are very much the base of our exploration. And looking at crown as a continuous experience more than any other physical like a road or like anything else. It's a continuous experience. That's what we are wanting to highlight. And if we see, so we would start with this area, which is here is where the solar kitchen is. So from here till here, which is the visitor center to this office, the Matri Mandir gate road, and this whole stretch is encompassing the sector 3, 4 and 5 of the residential zone. And what we are proposing there at the moment, we have a parallel road which is about only 300 meters away, which is serving the motorized traffic perfectly. And it's kind of non-negotiable for us for next 5 to 7 years at least. So what we are saying is we are only proposing a cycle path along this area, the whole of this area, and continue using this motorized vehicles and create more, if required. This is what is serving the whole area now, and if required, this can be increased as the development comes along, and keep this cycle path, this crown stretch. And then when we go here in front of Unity Pavilion, till this road, this is language lab, and here we have this Kotakarai road which is coming and passing through this Perambok land. So we also, again, what we are doing is making this area motorized. because again this road needs connection, and if we somehow make this motorized, people are discouraged somehow to use this road, which is not in a very good riding condition, but use this, and and this area gets a little the traffic goes away. And from here, this is the stretch of Darkali forest. So here we are again coming to the similar movement of only cycle paths through that. So here what we have, it was very interesting to see that Fabian's proposal has a little bypass which from Kali Temple Road, which we would like to consider in the next stage of our proposal. So it can still serve the motorized needs for the motorized traffic, and this path is kept very serene in its in the way it is only through a nice cycle path. And then from here, this is the stretch where we don't own, it's all non-Auroville lands here mostly, and this stretch is again motorized, which is essential at the moment for serving the industrial zones traffic. So when we have this road connecting from outside the axis, and then we have this, this is already done, and we can, this to have the interlink of the industrial zone, this road could serve that purpose, and this is already the paved stretch. We continue the motorized traffic over there. And here is the Bliss, and again it makes more sense because it's serving all the schools, this road, the school buses, and then a lot of traffic outgoing, incoming from, which is not essentially Aurovilles, can also still continue using that as a road. But on the crown, we continue again the cycle and pedestrian path. And here, this is where last school, this is somewhere roughly last school is. And from here, what we are saying is, if you observe that here is our Gaya field, and what we now do to go to Gaya field is we ride until that field and we park our vehicles there. And it's just another little extension if we could do, and the key is that there is a private land here. So which means we have to buy that private land in order to make this. The whole idea of doing this is, again, relates to the priority of having non-motorized traffic on the crown, and not repeating the live example which we have right next to it, which we are trying hard to reverse the process, where we have allowed it and we are not able to get back soon on that motorized thing. So let's not start with that, is what is the idea. So this is a little bypass we are proposing, and continue the traffic, cycle paths and everything along here. Has a nice different experience. And then here, which is our the stretch that we are experiencing every day, and people especially on the crown, we kind of propose a timely movement. Like we have the live example of promenade. It closes, the motorized traffic closes after 6 in the evening and opens only after 6 in the morning. So that is the time when the residents, the people living over there, we come together. It's a place that becomes active and everything. We don't need to find parks, and we don't need to find playgrounds and spaces to hang out outside, but we do it right in front of us. We are connected to that place, and we don't need to go away to find entertainment. So that's the idea of doing that. And we are proposing, in order to do that, we need to practically we need to have some parking spaces which would help us park here and then take a walk and all. So this radial, which is Vikas radial, can do that, and we can propose some stop point here, and then a parking space for vehicular, hopping from vehicle to walking. So this connection, which is existing, can serve the purpose of people needing to bypass instead of going on the crown. And and for the people over here, I forgot to mention, the parking spaces for the residents and Kalabhumi and Kripa can move outside, and it's kind of the entry is from outside. So we come, and then crown is like a surprise. So that's the kind of experience that comes in. And this is an exploration of having a public transport. And if we see here, we are proposing some drop points. And from here, the Unity Pavilion, the bus route starts. Bus, or it can be a small shuttle, actually. Electric shuttle. Electric shuttle. And it goes and takes people. And every day, We have shuttles. Basically, we start with 2, and then as we go on, we increase in population. We can increase the frequency of these shuttles. And this pink line shows the walking radius from the drop points, and the green line shows the cycling radius in 5 minutes. This is where we could cover pretty much all the city on cycles, and we are proposing pool of cycles in each drop point, so that if I'm coming through a shuttle and then I can take a cycle, finish my work in wherever I want to go, and then come back, and then whenever the shuttle again comes, I get back.
So placemaking is another thing that we tried to do along the crown. Here, the approach that we have taken is, of course, we have referred to master plan as one of the, because master plan has a zoning regulations given, so we have taken that as one of the guideline documents. We have considered the blue-green infrastructure that you saw in our previous slides. We have taken that as one of the primary thing to do the placemaking around it. Like before we said, we are looking at, right now we're looking at only 5 to 7 years as an implementation plan, and not really going a lot more than 5 to 7. And of course, looking at the we are responding to the current needs that are emerging out of our dialogues, that our living here and our experiences. So yeah, the first stretch, which is sector 3, 4, 5 in residential zone. It also has Mahalakshmi Park here, Maheshwari Park here. So what we are talking about here is mainly, as we all know, sector 1 and 2 is being our priority of development for housing. If in next 5 to 7 we need to, or even if not, we need to have some housing, we could have a mixed housing along here, because we do have this as one of the primary roads that is catering to these places. So we could have mixed dwelling units. We could have guest houses, because right now we have guest houses, and we could have pool of guest houses there, and could, I mean, it kind of fits in very well if you look at the master plan zoning and how Roger has also envisioned the crown. Guest houses kind of things fit in pretty well. Yeah, and places like, though here it says retail stores, I don't think we like to use that word, but something like distribution centers, which we already have, could also be housing in this area. This is the junction, which is visitor center and Matri Mandir crossing. So here we could have arcades, like shopping arcades could have, again this is from master plan, so I'm just reading through. Cafes could have banking and financial services there. To the other thing, I don't know if you mentioned, but we are talking of this pedestrian to be not on the other side. Like this, from here we are kind of doing, stopping with a barrier that people from here, they don't walk in this side.
Only the tourists.
Only the tourists, yeah. The next stretch, which is Unity Pavilion and Savitri Bhavan area. So you see a little meandering here. That's because we want to give an importance to archaeological site which is existing there, and archaeological projects are also part of master plan. We feel current need, and also as part of master plan zoning regulation, hostels could fit in very well there. Yeah, so this is from master plan. This is a megalithic burial ground map that we found, and basically when there was a HT line laid in 2014 in that area, I think Oro Dam to Centerfield, that area, or that MMVC road, in that area when it was laid, about 1 meter trenches were made, and there were some artifacts which were found in that area. In the digging soil, they found quite a lot of stuff there. So we feel that it is important that we are sensitive towards this. This is going through Darkali. So it's very interesting. Darkali right now is, I think Ganesh mentioned or somebody mentioned already that there are three scenarios happening here. One is international zone, then it is Mahasaraswati Park, and then it is industrial zone. So the zoning could also happen, I mean the placemaking could also happen little bit according to that. So what we are looking at is keeping most of it as green park, but could have nature interpretation centers, urban parks largely, and the area where there is industrial zone, we could even have some kind of income generating activities for the forest itself so that they become self-sustainable in their own functioning. So, so yeah, what you see here is what Gopal is, where Gopal and we all are standing here for this was from the morning walk. This is the fourth catchment, which is actually the lowest point. It's very important to know that this is the lowest point on the crown, and hence more of a reason to really protect it and be sensitive towards it. What we saw on our, while we were walking there is few red sanders, which are, the botanical name is a bit difficult to pronounce, but I'll try. Pterocarpus santalinus, I think. Yeah. So there are few of them on that stretch, and that's one of the endangered species, and it will be nice that we save them, we protect them, we have them, and also it's not legal, it seems to, by law, it's not legal to cut them. So why not have parks, and it's right now they have these spaces which are park-like already. So why not create more of these along that? This is non-Auroville land. Actually, a lot of it is Michael Bonke land. So this stretch is already paved, and we could pave rest of it. It's a lot is cleared already. So again, what we are talking of is having services and activities here which are more catering to the industrial zone right now, such as retail stores, or have offices which, or have hardware stores which would kind of support the stationaries and stuff like that to the offices which are in this area, have conference halls so that people can have common conference hall and not build their own conference halls each time in their own campuses, have city management offices, or have courier service, have postal service, these kind of things which are day-to-day needed for offices to run. The next is youth bliss area. So here, like we said before, we are doing this crown, but then have more as pedestrian and cycles mostly. So what we could do around this is actually, and this is in Mahakali Park, almost all of it. So bring back some green there, and have a youth plaza is what we are talking about. And we saw some proposals that also Fabian showed, which were made by youth, and that could be very easily incorporated here. So have cafes, have social landscape spaces, they could have their fairs, we could have our fair, youth fair there, multi-purpose carts, games rooms, performance areas, etc. So this is again from our walk, and even though it is cleared, we could still do things around it, have little landscape spaces and cafes. I mean, if we don't pull this down and convert it into a cafe like that, I don't know. So yeah, the next stretch is through cultural zone mostly, and a bit of it is in Mahalakshmi Park. So here, what we're talking about is right now the way residence assembly is so active, our community is so active, there is a need of having spaces to meet. They're very limited spaces. So we could have such spaces there. We could have, again, cafes and, am I back to the,
No,
okay. The other thing is this is because of the cultural zone, and education in Auroville is not just the mainstream education, but there are also, learning is happening also through so many other alternative ways that we could create spaces for those learnings also. Few more minutes. And then the residential zone. So here, here mostly the space, the activities which the buildings projects that we have, which is health services or Mahalakshmi home, they could have expansions. We could also have, like Induja before said, that it's good to have an evening life on this stretch. So we could bring back some kind of food carts, some kind of chaos that we can have recreation around this stretch in the evenings. Okay, and here we try to attempt to the sections, try to stick to 16.7, but in our own flexible way.
Yeah. So we are basically trying to see how this 16.7 can be reimagined in different stretches. We have attempted some in different stretches. This is the residential zone sector 3, 4 and 5, which I talked about, starting from Solar Kitchen. What we mentioned was to have a cycle path, which is only about 2.5 meters, which is the building reserve area, in that sense, the infrastructure area, which is according to the TDC section. So it can still go under that, and this can remain a cycle path. And there is water which is flowing under, there are culverts. The idea to raise it is to allow the water to pass through in various ways, like through culverts and other different ways. And this whole area, which is and then there is another building reserve, which is the infrastructure corridor, which is 3.1. It can still have covered spaces and extended colonnades and all these things, which are bioclimatically also helping the buildings. And this area is just not developed at the moment. It's kept and it's used in a different way. It's organized in a different way that it serves the residential, as a support for the residential use. And yeah, that's what we are imagining here in that whole stretch. Oops.
So one thing is at places where we know that water is flowing under, we could do the deep trenching at those places for the infrastructure. Also, we are not very clear about, when we talk about the infrastructure, we also at times looking at, for example, water distribution as also a decentralized water system. So we do not know how much such large building reserves are required. So we did it with that limited knowledge that we will, when we look at all other distributions, all other infrastructures, and not only the HT line, which is already going, I think, through this area. So looking at, once we have all those plans, then I think it is more clear what kind of building reserves are required for infrastructure.
Yeah, in some places it could be only one corridor instead of two. So we are not technically that, we don't know the know-how, so that's why we are still sticking to this. And here you see this, there can be barriers which still, this is the road which is connecting from the other parallel road, and people can still cross the crown but not go through the crown. So in that area, sorry.
Next.
Yeah, it's late. So from Savitri Bhavan to Language Lab, so this is in plan. So this is the archaeological site where the cycle path and the experience of crown is still continuing, but just the road is taking a meandering path, and then the loop road in future can connect to the road, and all that can happen, and then all the buildings coming around it can take form to merge with the crown. And yeah, so here also we are keeping the building reserve, which is 2.5 meters, and then the motorized road, which is, we refer to the 3.7 that is existing, 3.7, 3.8 that is existing. And then this is the whole combined pedestrian zone. This is where we can actually put in all our energy to create different urban spaces. So this is where is that. And And then this is Darkali stretch where we are proposing again only the cycle path and with not disturbing the forest much. And under the, so we interestingly saw this photo which is like there is a waterway and the infrastructure is still undisturbed and going, and there is a movement also possible. So there is much possible with the way the place is without disturbing it. So that's an important thing, and the water catchments can be enlarged, and we can have more catchment here because we are placed rightly on the ridge. There is a lot more scope for us to do the water management. And this is the industrial zone stretch where most of Michael Bonke's land is. And here, as we again here, the 16.7 is a little reorganized, and then the road, motorized road here goes. And this is the space where all these cafes, the kiosk for drinking water, and all those things can come. And this is the next stretch, which is the YC. So this has given a, I mean, in a sense, if we see positively the clearing, it has given a space for us to reorganize it differently. And so what we are saying is it's a wide stretch and a lot of activities can happen. We know how that place is and how much more the place can be, and a lot more trees in the middle of the crown, and gives shade perfectly and gives a very different experience, and every space for everybody now to get in there. And this is a cultural zone stretch in front of Kripan Kalabhumi where we are proposing that bypass of the road. The road is again going behind that area. So again here the 2.5, 7.4, which is a combined pedestrian zone, and again the infrastructure corridor continues. And yeah, and spaces are passing through, and there is parking behind. So the movement is there, the movement, this the continuous movement is there, continuous experience of crown is also there. This is our last stretch. So this is the residential zone, existing residential zone 1 and 2. So here it can be again the water here, because now the infrastructure is already laid. There can be a overland flow like on the road, like how in front of Ilaignargal there is a little dip in the road. So those kind of things can be done. And again this is the space where we got to reorganize and bring back the social life. So it can be meandering cycle paths, pavilions, and all that.
That this is something which we got inspired by Henrik's presentation last time, which was interactive. He said he called it something else. It was public plaza,
Social
I think.
spaces.
We are calling it interactive spaces, which is along the thing. And what we're talking about is,
we looked at every 200 meters and saw the possibility. There were naturally many things that were already happening. Could just enhance it and have that.
and the human experience. We will leave it here, we won't talk.
Yeah.
This is what we were basically, we think that the kind of experience that people can get along